Well, today on Camilla I, it's all about dedication to your wildlife photography. Well, hello, good evening, and welcome to an episode of Camilla and I. I'm Mark Cooper, and this is where the dedication, the time and effort really pays off. Yeah, so tonight's episode is all about dedication, and it's about repeat visits to areas you know well. And here we are at Langford Lakes in Wiltshire, only 8 miles from my hometown of Salisbury. And basically, over the last few days, I've been able to get very close to a great crested grebe family. It's been absolutely superb. So we've been able to photograph all the action, interaction, from first thing in the morning with the mist rolling in from the lake to now the last rays of sunlight. And boy, it has been absolutely superb. And this is what makes it all worthwhile. It's the dedication, it's the time and effort and continued repeat visits to the same location, which eventually pay off, and all things come together to create magical light and a magical experience. And this is when you get the absolute winning shots, those shots that take your photography to another level, because it's not all about the camera gear. It's about being in position at the right time. And then if you do have the best camera in the world, obviously you can take advantage of it. Well, we're having a cracking time this evening. Not only first thing in the morning, but last thing into the evening. These machines fish all day long. Absolutely incredible. The great crested grebe. Very dedicated parents. I mean, occasionally they come up with the odd pike, which they have to eat themselves to keep themselves going. But on the whole, they do this amazing dive and usually come up with only a tiny little fish, big enough for the youngsters to pouch. But it's quite incredible what they do actually manage to take down the old snout or the old beak. Absolutely incredible. Yeah. So here they are, right in the middle of the lake at Langford Lakes. So we've got the 600mm and the 2x extension, taking us to f8, and we're currently shooting at 1,000th of a second just to capture any movement, and we've got an ISO of 1600.
Varies from 1250 to 1600 as they go in and out of the shade and light areas. Absolutely amazing. And basically they just hang around in the middle of the lake and wait for a fish to be delivered by mum or dad. Both parents take it in turns to catch fish, and indeed as the chicks get older they both hunt and fish and leave the chicks on their own. They're quite confident swimmers at this point, and they've definitely left mum and dad's backs for now. Absolutely beautiful. So this is why we dedicate ourselves to repeat visits to the same area, because it can pay real dividends. Obviously I noticed these great crested grebes all mating about a month back, and they were nest building, and indeed the eggs take about 26 to 29 days to hatch. So these guys, I suppose, are about a week or so old now. But it's this dedication and keeping coming back with a purpose. And the great crested grebes are a great subject because they do so much. They do the courtship dance. They build a nest, if you're lucky, within a close proximity to where you are. They do a little dance. They've got great headgear. They've got everything that you want in a photographic subject. So they're absolutely marvellous. And I've followed them through, obviously, through the mating ritual, the weed dance, linked to the weed dance, and right through to the nest building, and now to the completion. The sitting on the eggs is a bit of a boring stage, but missed that. But we've gone straight to the family of 4, and yeah, absolutely brilliant interaction in the family. First thing in the morning, been very lucky with a couple of misty mornings to start with, and I've been able to get low enough on these sort of platforms, on these angling platforms at Langford Lakes, and I've been able to get low on Brockhurst Lake and get down low enough to differentiate between a higher level up here and now down to this level, very close to the water. If you take note between 2 shots, one taken at this level and one taken at that level, there's quite a difference between the 2 shots. Train going by. Yes, interrupted by a train there. There's a small sideline that goes past the back of Langford Lakes and occasionally makes a bit of a noise. So if I stop, lose my train of thought, it's probably a train. Anyway, yeah, so we've discussed the difference in levels. It's well worth photographing as low down to the water as you can, because you get a completely different effect and a different reflection. And obviously you always want to be at eye level with your subject if you can. And this is what we try on Camilla and I, to get as low as possible usually. And this mist on these early mornings really covered our approach, because I wasn't using a hide. It's exactly as the setup is now. Just stealthily move into position and wait for the great crested grebes to come to you rather than try and hunt them down. And fortunately, knowing Langford Lakes like the back of my hand, I had a very good idea where they were going to go next and where they were going to fish and hunt. So I was able to alternate between 3 pontoons here at Langford Lakes and get into position before they arrived, giving me a great advantage. Anyway, so you've seen the difference between the low down shot and the slightly higher up shot. Makes all the difference in the world. And anyway, settings, I started with the 1200mm, the 600 f4 with the 2x converter, because I knew I'd have to go for reach, because they nearly always start in the middle of the lake. But at one point I had to take the teleconverter off because they came so close. So it was absolutely marvellous. Anyway, what I'll do is I'll shut up and let you watch what I got on the two early morning visits. Yes, it just wasn't possible to bring you along on the first thing in the morning shots, because although great crested grebes can get used to you, they're not that they're never that bold here at Langford Lakes. Normally they will head for the middle of the lake the moment you approach them, sticking a long lens in there. So anyway, it's dedication. It's years of getting to know the area, getting to know your subject, and getting to know fully au fait with your camera so that you can get the shots. There's always some elements of luck in these shots. I mean, take for example the early morning mist shots. They suffer awfully from diffraction, where everything gets between you and the subject. The mist itself can be too dense. Sometimes it can just clear in the right point, and then the great crested grebes can be exposed. So although you try and take a lot of the elements out of the guesswork, out of the photography, you're still left with an element of luck whether you get the shot. And indeed the composition, the bird could be looking the other way. Obviously you're stuck in a fixed position and you can't really move around, otherwise you will be detected. So you have to be in the right place at the right time. So a fair amount of serendipity does come into play, even if you know all the factors I do and the area and everything else. You've just still got to have that element of luck for that winning shot. Whether I've got a winner, we'll see. I won't actually show you my winning shot. I'll show you a similar one, because if I do, it might invalidate any competition entry or indeed future use of the photograph. But I'll show a similar one, because needless to say, we take about a little burst of about 5 or 6 shots in one go, rather than just one image. So there's always one, even out of a burst of 6, where, for example, the bird has just got its head up rather than down. So I'll probably show you the one with the bird's head slightly down. Okay. Well, I mustn't forget my new feature on Camilla and I, my shot of the week. And surprisingly enough, it is actually going to be a great crested grebe family shot. And I think the shot I particularly liked was of the 4 chicks on their own. Both the parents had gone off and abandoned them, well, literally just dived down beneath them to fish for them, and left the 4 of them just bobbing around on the surface. And I think this is the best shot I've got of just the great crested grebe chicks before. So yeah, this is my personal shot of the week. Great crested grebes chicks in a line. So technical difficulties when approaching a subject like this is what settings you set, and obviously I'm always battling with ISO, and on this occasion I varied between 1/500th of a second and 1,000th of a second. Now I am going to miss shots occasionally. I got a few blurred shots where 1,000th of a second wasn't enough. But essentially the birds, unless they're trying to grab a fish from the parent, are relatively not moving that quickly. So I could just about get away on the whole with 1,000th of a second, and indeed 1/500th of a second, or indeed lower. If I dropped it that low, I don't think I did, because I was a lot of the time I was on 1200mm f8. I might have done when I was on 600mm f4. But anyway, so the technical capabilities are to get that winning shot. I needed to get as low an ISO as possible, and I still need to get as close as possible and as near to a full frame image as possible. So that's why I was using the 2x converter and 1,000th of a second, not higher in this case, because I could easily have shot at 2,000th of a second, but I would have doubled my ISO. So yeah, bear that in mind. Obviously, I mentioned earlier, the diffraction comes into play. It is sheer luck whether the mist clears when it's really thick first thing in the morning, and then you're waiting for it to clear, and then you have to watch the compensation dial, because as the sun rises you want to post in negative compensation. This evening, for example, I've already gone -2, and indeed early morning mist shots I was using -1. That's because the white plumage on the great crested grebe is particularly annoying. Anybody who's photographed the great crested grebe will know that you can easily blow out the chest on the great crested grebe. So that's the technical difficulty. Don't blow out the chest. You can't recover blown out highlights. Well, what an evening on Camilla I. Hopefully you've enjoyed today's episode. Big thank you to the 860 people who watch Camilla I on a regular basis or have subscribed. Absolutely superb. Hopefully you're getting something out of this channel. Yeah, I certainly enjoy bringing you episodes like this. I mean, yeah, it really doesn't get any better in wildlife photography. This is the sort of experience we wildlife photographers dream of, to get into position with the knowledge of the subject and to get the atmospheric conditions and all the elements in place at one time. Dedication gets you into the thing. That's what the episode's been all about tonight. It's dedication. Anyway, don't forget there, just get out there. You don't get the prize winning photos if you're not out. So get out, have a good one, and bye from Camilla and I.